It was really hot. Hey, what's up? I'm Allie and welcome back to my channel. I feel like Cruella de Vil right now, but I feel like this look will just fit the overall theme that I'm going for, the kind of scrapbooky feel that I'm going for this 2020 stats video. These are some of my favorite videos. I look forward to them every year, and you guys know I am such a sucker for stats. If you don't know, I make a reading spreadsheet every year. There is a new one for 2021. If you go to the community tab, you will see there is a video where you can go to. There's a walkthrough and then also a download there as well. So if you're interested in that, it is up. I have been updating anything that might need fixed on Twitter and also in the community tab. If you download it after the fixes have been made, you're fine. So let's go ahead and let's get into this. In 2020, I read a total of 9,958 pages. This is quite a decrease, I believe. I also listened to 472 hours of audiobook, and I read a total of 95 books. This was definitely a decrease from 2019. Oh my god, I just was like, what year came before 2020? 2019, because in 2019, I read 117 books, so there isn't really that much of a difference, but it's definitely noticeable. I only read half pages, basically, of what I read in 2019, which was 20,557. My audiobook listening increased since 2019. I think this is mostly because that's pretty much the only way I was getting anything done in 2020. My audiobook definitely, I feel like it increased because that was the only way I could concentrate on anything. I feel like even though I was stuck home a lot, that meant that I wanted to do things around the house, and to do that, I had to be listening to something so I could multitask. So that was where I felt that came in, and I also just did not feel the need to sit down and read. Like, I feel like I just lost that passion to sit down and read something. So I've just been kind of trying to find something that will make me sit down and read again like I used to, and just like really get into it. I've been trying to tab things more often to see if that helps, but I think it's mostly just I haven't really felt the need to do so, because most of the time when I do that, I'm binging a series, and there just hasn't been a series for me to binge recently. So I'm just kind of waiting for some to be done so I can start binging them. Let's look at the overall stats format of book. Again, this was where the majority of my reading happened. I listened to 56 audiobooks, 12 ebooks, which I think was quite a decline, and then physical 27. Only 27 physical books. That like blows my mind. Adult was the majority of my reading. Middle grade, I only read 9 middle grade. New adult, that is, you know, up for debate. This was just what I categorized them as, and then YA was 34. So way more than the majority was adult, which is weird to me. I feel like I read a lot of YA, but apparently I do not. I have the Own Voices graph on here, but I really didn't track it that diligently. I wasn't really double checking my stats to make sure that I was checking if they were Own Voices, so I probably, like most definitely, have missed some in this category. So I kind of went through last minute and added some that I knew about, but this wasn't something that I was particularly paying attention to, which I know is not like a good thing. This is showing only about 28% were Own Voices. I do think that the number is higher than that. I just personally did not spend the time to look into that, and that is something that I want to change. And then I was looking at author race. However, I also don't think I was super diligent with this in writing down the correct stats necessarily. I do feel like I read more than one Indigenous author, so I don't think that these stats are totally correct. Again, I feel like I probably just missed some putting them in, but as you can see, still 70% of my reading was white, and I definitely would like to get that down to 50% in 2021. I do think that, you know, I have been paying more attention. I'm just gonna say it here right now that authors are not something that I've really paid attention to in the past. Normally I get a book and most of the time I don't even know who the author is. Unless it's an author that I have read repeatedly or heard about repeatedly, most of the time I don't really pay attention to the author, which is bad. That's bad. I know that's bad, but it's a habit that I have found hard to break. So I do want to pay more attention to who I am reading and what kind of voices I am reading from. So that is something on me. That's something that I need to learn to pay more attention to. You'll notice a lot of times I don't even mention the author name, and it's mostly because I don't think about it. It's not something that I had trained myself to think about. I do think I have been more aware of an author's name because of working in the library, because we look up everyone by their name. But other than that, it is not something in the past that I've really focused on. This was the first year I even started tracking author stats, but with the new spreadsheet, there's more to track with the author, so I do think I'll be paying more attention to that. So this is something, I don't think this is accurate, but it is something that I do want to focus more on. For genres, oh my goodness, so fantasy is normally the abundance of my reading, and that is the same here, but I do think I personally feel like I read a lot less fantasy than I have in previous years, but we will see. A good portion of my reading, there was a jump in the romance reading, which was interesting, but I do think that is because I found a comfort in romance this year. More so than I have in previous years. I tend to be a mood reader, and that was pretty much all I could focus on half the time. I was surprised. Normally, I would consider myself like no horror. I don't like horror, none at all. But I had read quite a good many horror books this year, and I enjoyed them. So I think they go into like the mystery thriller type thing, and you know, that. Definitely the lowest I feel like I've read was graphic novels. I've had quite a disconnect from graphic novels, which is weird, because once upon a time my channel was known for, recommending a lot of graphic novels, and I just feel like I haven't found any recently that have like any new ones that have caught my eye or that I have access to. So I just feel like I've been lost with that. But because of that, I feel the need to fill this void of graphic novelness. I am going to be trying manga this year, so that is going to be a new thing that I plan on tracking. So, and compared to 2019, here we can see, again, fantasy was the majority of my reading, but actually graphic novel was like almost 50% of my reading the previous year. But nope, that, as I said, I just feel very disconnected from graphic novels. Fantasy is funny because I read exactly 22 fantasies both years. That is so funny, but contemporary went down, but of course romance jumped up, and I think, you know, a lot of times those things can go hand in hand, just depends on where you fill them in. Again, 4 stars tends to be my go-to rating for a lot of things, honestly. I think there is the discussion that, do you want to read reviews from someone who rates things highly all the time? But then on the counterpart, does the reviewer know what they like? And I tend to think that I know what I like, but I read everything, honestly. I have my favorites, but I tend to read and enjoy from a variety of different genres, so it can be kind of hard. I will say that I was definitely more skeptical going into books this year, and I was very quick to put something down. If I was not into it, I was done with it. So that's why you don't see a lot of lower ratings this year. Like, I don't have a single 1-star, and that's because I was not afraid to just dump books in 2020. Most of the time I'm not afraid to DNF, but I usually give them a good hard try. Not this year. If I wasn't into it immediately, I wasn't reading it, basically. So I only really had 2 DNFs, and I chose not to track those. So my 2 DNFs were Red Sister and Where the World Ends, I believe is what it's called. So those were only my real true DNFs. Like, I don't really plan on continuing those at any other given time in life. It is interesting to me that 5 and 4.5 stars have exactly 14. I don't know why that's interesting, but that's interesting to me. I will say that just because something has a 5-star doesn't necessarily mean that it's an automatic favorite for me. And most of my favorites are between the 4.5 and the 4-star rating. Like, when I look back on my all-time favorites, they normally were not total 5-star reads for me. I don't know. I don't know why that is. I think it's because I can find flaws in them and still really enjoy them. So take that as you will. I don't know if that makes you trust me less, if that makes you trust me more. There's my overall ratings. I just want to show you all the books in that rating system. Here are all the books that I gave 5 stars. Obviously, 2 of these are rereads. I had 2 rereads this year, and they're on here. Court of Thorns and Roses, Court of Mist and Fury. So those were rereads. Some of these were in my best reads, some of them were not. And then here are my 4.5 star reads. So these ones were also ones that I would probably consider favorites. On top of that, just ones that I really enjoyed. And then we also have my 4-star reads here. Obviously, I had a lot of 4-star reads since that was the majority of what I gave out. But these are all ones that I would really consider like favorite reads. So these are all things that I feel like I really enjoyed. Alright, let's get into the monthly stats because I think this is what is most interesting. So here's kind of my overview of the month. I feel like I definitely went through a trend throughout the year. It was like I'd read a low amount of books, and then I'd read 7 books, and then I would read 11 books. And then like a low amount of books, 7 books, and then 11 books again. Like it was a weird, like it was weird that 11 just kept popping up, and it was kind of in intervals. It was like every 3 months I was hitting somewhere around 11 books. July and October tend to be my 2 highest reading months, and you can see that that was pretty consistent here. I was surprised that December I only read 8 things because I do think in the past that has been historically high for me. Historically, like I've been doing this forever and ever and ever. November does tend to be one of the lowest reading months for me, and that's mostly just because I do NaNoWriMo, and so I don't necessarily have the full amount of time to focus on that. Compared to 2019, this is interesting. February tends to be trending low for me for some reason. Again, March, I was surprised, is pretty equal. April is nowhere close. 2020 I read 10 books in April. In 2019 I read 2. June was pretty spot on. Again, July tends to be one of my highest reading months. I think that's just because Booktubeathon, it's summer. I tend to like to read a lot in the summer. I like to read when I travel, and July tends to be when I do the most traveling as well. And then October, pretty equal. Again, those tend to be some of my highest read months. So that was pretty equal. December, as I said, I felt like December, I definitely feel like I tend to read a lot in December because I'm finishing up books for the year and I'm trying to get a lot of things done, you know, and I get things for Christmas, so then I'm just excited to read those, and that just wasn't the case in 2020. So, but it is interesting that the rises in the falls are kind of the same for both years, so it'll be interesting to see what that looks like again next year. Snow Glass Apples was my shortest book, as well as one of my lowest rated books. And then Sarah J. Maas Crescent City is my longest. I feel like that's going to be pretty similar to a lot of people's readings. Here are the series that I finished. So I finished The Dark Days Deceit, which is the Lady Helen series. Deathless Divide, which is the sequel to Dread Nation. I will say going into that, you should know that there are some concerns about how Indigenous people are presented in that series. And then I also finished Daughter of the Siren Queen, which is the duology and Daughter of the Pirate King. And then here's some series that I started and plan on continuing. So I really didn't read a lot of, I feel like, series that I continued on, but here are ones that I started and plan on continuing. I did start some other series, but I don't really plan on continuing with those. So The Jumbies, Ninth House, if she ever comes out with it. Begone the Raggedy Witches, which I think I have one more book left and it is out. Kingdom of the Wicked, which just I really loved. A Blade So Black, which I think the last book comes out this year. Trail of Lightning, Crescent City, and then Fortuana Sworn. Most of those I have also read the second book of if it was already out. So that's interesting to me because I felt like I didn't really continue a lot of series this year, but apparently I was continuing the new ones that I was reading. And then here are the books that I felt like had the best covers of 2020 for me. The Deep, the main thing that drew me to that book was just the beautiful illustrations on it. That mer person is just gorgeous in my opinion. Initially I gave this book a just kind of meh rating. However, it is a book that I feel like I do want to return to because I feel like there was just a lot that I just didn't understand, and just I didn't interpret it the way that it should have been interpreted in my opinion. So that I feel like that one was on me. Begone the Raggedy Witches, again, another one that was a cover appeal to me and then I just ended up loving it. It is a middle grade series on top of that. The Butterfly Garden, I love the simplicity of this. I have been really obsessed with the idea of like butterflies and insects in the past year, and this kind of played into that. And then They Wish They Were Us. So 3 of these were books that I picked up based on the cover, and then They Wish They Were Us was more so on the premise, but I love simple designs, but I love the green pattern in the background and then the blood. I think that that is just so cool. And here are the best of the genres that I read in my opinion. So YA fantasy, Kingdom of the Wicked, and A Blade So Black I felt like just were really stand out. In mystery, The Weight of Lies, and then also The Butterfly Garden. These were both in my like best reads of the year. Of romance, Beach Read, and Get a Life, Chloe Brown were definitely, those were both 5 stars for me. For horror, Tiny Nightmares, which is a collection of flash stories, which I just thought had, most of them were really good, had a really great impact in how like horror is not necessarily defined by the author, it's defined by the reader, things like that. And then the 7 Books Club Guide to Slaying Vampires, that one also took me by surprise because I felt frustrated reading that for most of it, and I just still ended up enjoying it. And then YA Contemporary, The Best Laid Plans, and The Black Flamingo were really stand out. Then for adult fantasy, Trail of Lightning and The Black God's Drums. The Black God's Drums is a standalone novella, and Trail of Lightning is part of a series, and they were both just fantastic. They both deal with myth and stuff like that. And then Dark Academia, I feel like I had to include this because that is something that I'm actively looking and reading from, and it became quite a trend in 2020, so the best of that was Ninth House and Catherine House, which I know, it's interesting that they both have a house in the cover. I just realized that reading those out loud. And then nonfiction, How to Be a Good Creature, and then Stamped from the Beginning, which is an incredibly well-researched and impactful read about racism in America and its history and going through history and where racist ideals come from. So then we get into, I want to talk a little bit about my YouTube stats. My most watched video was Organize and Clean My Library with Me. Or I think this video was watched because I posted it when a lot of organize and cleaning videos were kind of trending, and a lot of people I feel like who are not subscribed to me tune into this because it's an organizing and cleaning video. So I think this one got more outside of BookTube than my normal content, obviously, and I really enjoyed it. I do think it is one of my better videos. I had fun filming it, and I got things done while I was doing it. My least watch, which is so upsetting, is my bloopers video for my vampire video. Now my vampire video is probably my favorite video of the year that I worked on. I put so much effort into that, and if you haven't seen it, please, please just give it a chance. Each scene is filmed somewhere else in a new setting, and I put costumes into everything, but my least watch, I was surprised, was my bloopers, because I would have thought everyone would have loved bloopers and would have, I enjoy that video. I go back to that video a lot when I need a good laugh, but I was very surprised that it was my least watched video of the year. This even did worse than any of my NaNoWriMo vlogs, and those tend to be just my least watched just because of the content of them, but indeed. Some of my stats, I don't know if you guys actually care about these. In 2020, I had about 584,000 views, and I had a growth of over 6,000 subscribers. I do think this is less than 2019 because I had quite a spike in 2019 because I did the I Read Books and Lala favorite books or whatever, Can We Trust Books and Lala video, which was very popular for my channel. It's in one of my most watched videos on my channel. I think it's like number 2 of most watched videos on my channel. I feel like the growth was pretty steady throughout, and I hit 25,000 and I've already surpassed that, which was my goal in 2020. So that was really exciting. So some of my goals in 2021, normally read 50 books. I do want to pay more attention to the authors that I'm reading from and who I'm reading from, and just I want to be better at providing trigger warnings. So I am doing more detailed on trigger warnings. There is a really great website called Unconsenting Media. The founder actually reached out to me, and when I came across that, I was like, how have I not heard of this before? But basically, it is kind of this database where people can put out trigger warnings for movies and books and such. So if you want to know if something has a trigger warning, you can check out that database. They do have a submissions page as well. So yeah, is one, I believe, more for sexual violence. So just double check on that. But I thought that was a really great website, and I will be talking about it more probably throughout the year, and I plan on submitting a lot of things to it. So I've been also trying to do better about including trigger warnings on my wrap-ups. As you may have seen on my last wrap-up, I had the text of what the trigger warnings were. So I'm going to be better at providing that for people, and I do want to try to check out with what pages certain things occur on and things like that. I've just found time and time again that a vlogging format does not work for me. So I think I'm going to be trying to do more in the vampire style format and see how that goes. I have a lot of great videos planned, but we will see how they go once we get into it. I think really that is kind of it. I'm not really setting a lot of goals for this year just because I don't trust it. I don't trust 2021. I don't think it's going to be much better than 2020, so I'm not putting too much stock into it right now. I believe that is it for my 2020 stats video. So I hope that you guys have liked this, have gleaned something from it. I don't know. I don't know what the interest is in these. I like seeing it. So I just hope to be better tracking and be more consistent with, you know, trying to step outside my comfort zone. So I hope that you guys have liked this video. Don't forget to subscribe to see future videos from me. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!